Miscellaneous minds, never explaining the minds. Devilish grin for my alias, aliens who respond. Peddling sin, thinking maybe when you get old you realize I'm not gonna fold or demise. I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
Welcome everybody to the Miscellaneous Minds podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero. Today on the podcast we have a guest who I've known for a very long time, my good friend Jackie Chavez. We're here to talk about relationships. This is going to be a little bit of a mini podcast because we only have the one topic today, but it's definitely a rich topic, and we're definitely going to get into it. What can you tell me? What's going on? What did you get to experience today?
Well, today I actually went to church this morning.
Okay.
I know you're not quite a religious person, which is fine. But it's actually funny that we're talking about relationships today, because today in church they were talking about just that, relationships, friendships, and how right now in our society a lot of us are looking at quantity versus quality of friends. Finding those people who bring the best out of you, that motivate you, that almost keep you in line. Today in church they were saying that we need to hold our friends accountable. Sometimes we have to. If you care about someone, you love someone, you respect that person, you're always honest with them. And if they love and respect you back, typically you would be able to have that type of conversation, even if it's a negative one.
I agree.
I think that goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today. Relationships, not just friendships, but also intimate partners. I have an intimate partner. His name's Michael, and I can honestly say we act more like friends a lot of times than we do boyfriend and girlfriend. And I think that is what's kept everything kind of lively. We've been together for 6 months, so of course it's still new. We're still in the honeymoon phase, but I think that with past relationships of mine, I've learned that you can keep that honeymoon phase. Like, you can honestly keep that going, and but it takes two. I think it's really important that you become the best friends before, or continue to be best friends. You know, you're going to be learning about each other, new things every single day.
Yep.
So yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. So let's first talk about what exactly they speak about in church. I know that you said that you went to church today, so kind of give me like a little bit of a breakdown on what they discussed.
So what they discussed was how we, again, so with social media, we have a lot of times, you know, when you go on Instagram, right, you have tons of likes, you have tons of friends, and in this day and age, again, we're considered popular or unpopular depending on how many friends are following us and liking our stuff, how many views we get on the internet, which is all great, but I think that in the hindsight of things, sometimes that's just not reality. Sometimes in reality, you're not speaking to half of the people that like your stuff. You don't know their last name, you don't know anything about them, you're not checking up on them, and it's just not really an authentic, true relationship, friendship. We've all become kind of like transactions in a way, where it's like, if you get this many likes, you'll get a plaque from YouTube, or if you get this many likes, you know, Instagram might sign you on. So it's almost like just a bunch of fake relationships, and it's very rare nowadays, at least that's what they were saying in church, is how authentic those relationships truly are, and whether or not they're sincere. I feel like a lot of times our friendships nowadays are not sincere. They also actually had a study, and I can't remember where that study came from, but they were saying that someone could know or befriend or have friends in the amount of 150. And out of those 150, only 5 of them you're actually talking to, you're checking up on, you have a relationship with. Which is insane to me, because I mean, I can't imagine having fake 150 friends and not know anything about them.
Yeah, you know, you bring up a good point as far as social media. Me personally, I kind of believe that social media has kind of warped our minds in the sense of everybody believes, using your example of, you know, you have 150 friends, everybody believes, look, I got unlimited options, I got all these friends, I got all these people. But in reality, like you said, there's really only 5 deep relationshiip, 5 actual good relationships. So I think a lot of times people think that the grass is always greener by oh, you know, if this person doesn't do what I want, you know, relationship wise or friendship wise, oh, I got this other person. And then when they go to that side, they realize, okay, maybe it's not, you know, what I thought it was. So
not
I think
always greener.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times social media has kind of warped our minds to think that not just that the grass is greener, but that we have unlimited options, that we can, burn through relationships. And I think, especially our generation, unfortunately, a lot of us are really damaged because of a lot of the previous relationships that we had, and that makes us jaded moving into relationships forward.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, unfortunately, I see it all the time in my timeline. They get with somebody a week and a half, 2 weeks later. Oh, I hate this person. I don't want to see them anymore. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad because something deep could have developed there, but because everyone's got their wall up, because everybody's so jaded from a previous relationship, everyone thinks, oh, my last 2 dudes cheated on me, the next 2 dudes are going to cheat on me.
Yes.
So it's really sad to see such a breakdown in people's, not just belief that they could find somebody, but everybody's it's either my way or the highway type thing. So if you don't give me A through Z, I don't want to be with you. You might have gone A through X, but because they don't give you those last 2, you're like, fuck it, I don't want this anymore.
Right.
Bringing up studies, there was a study that I know you and me have discussed before, where both men and women were asked, if you found somebody and that somebody met 80% of your needs, would you be happy? Men overwhelmingly said, fuck man, 80%, that's the shit. I would love 80%, because we understand that we have to give a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas unfortunately women, a good gigantic huge portion of the people that were questioned said no, 80% is not enough. So to me it's a little bit crazy to think, in a spouse, if you found 80% of what you're looking for in the perfect mate, you got 80% and to you it's still not enough, it's weird. And I think again it goes right back to social media. Unfortunately we think, you see person B posting, I'm doing this, blah, 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 blah. Keeping in mind that obviously, social media is fake, like 99% of the time.
Right.
They think, oh, well, he's not giving me this, but that dude will give it to me because I see him doing it over there.
Right.
And then when you go over there, you realize, okay, it's not really what it is. So it's really sad to see that breakdown. It's really sad to see, unfortunately, people think that they have, again, unlimited options, but it really isn't that way. And I think that study that you said a second ago, both shows we only really develop strong relationships with a certain amount of people.
Yeah, it's true. And I think, too, now because I'm a woman, in regards to that study that you're talking about, I think that I kind of have to defend women just a little bit in the sense of women, since you're a little girl, you're taught, okay, when you grow up, you have to marry your Prince Charming. Right? You have to marry this perfect being, this man who's going to fight all your battles and who's going to just sweep you off your feet, and he's just going to be perfect in every way. That's not reality, ladies. Men are not perfect in every single way. And again, it's me standing up for women saying, like, as a little girl growing up, that you always have this image of what the perfect man is. And if, unfortunately, if you don't check those boxes, a lot of women just don't go for it. They won't be with you. They might break up with you. They might find something that's really not a problem and make it into a problem. And men can do the same as well. I think that it's a little different for men. But now with social media, now it's turning into the same thing. If my woman doesn't look like this, if she doesn't do her hair like this, if she doesn't wear her makeup like this, if she doesn't have, a 32-inch waist or less, if she doesn't have big breasts, if she doesn't have a big butt, like, those are the expectations that are being set for us ladies, and it's not fair for us either. So either way, I think that there's expectations that are unrealistic on both sides. And I think that causes a lot of issues in relationships. I think that, back to that study, 80%, now he actually asked me this personally, like alone, just me and him, and he asked me, do you agree with that? Personally, because I have been in some very interesting relationships, we'll keep it at that. Yeah. 80% of what I'm looking for, I think, is absolutely perfect. Yeah. I think another example of that is like, okay, well, what kind of car does he drive, right? How much money does he make? Where does he work? Am I going to be able to take him to social events? I mean, all these things actually do matter, unfortunately, rather than that person's intention, whether it's their heart, their honesty, their loyalty, their faithfulness. I think that it's on both sides, not just girls, not just guys.
I 100% agree, especially a lot of times men do fall for this idea that a woman should be, like you said, the measurements and all that. And it's unrealistic, man. Look, listen, there's a lot of beautiful women out there, whether they meet those measurements or not. There's a lot of beautiful people. Me personally, I can't fuck with somebody unless I can fuck with them mentally, meaning, I dig their personality, I dig who they are. Because, like we were just talking about right before we jumped on, at a certain point, the lust, the flame, it's gonna die out a little bit. So just merely being with somebody solely because of the looks, it's not gonna last. It's not gonna be a long, maintained flame. So yes, you should find whoever you're dating attractive, absolutely, but at the same time, you gotta go for a little bit more depth than just simply how they look.
Yes.
As far as what you were talking about a second ago, in relation to women are told, you gotta find your Prince Charming. I think, especially in today's climate, I think women are told, you shouldn't settle. You shouldn't settle. Which I understand the logic. I understand the thought process behind it, but it's unrealistic to think, if I have to compromise a little bit, I'm settling. That's not fucking settling. There's a huge difference. Both sides have to give in a little bit towards a relationship to make that relationship last. It's part of being a healthy couple. Look, you're not gonna like everything that your partner does, and vice versa. They're not gonna like everything that you do. So in order to maintain that long-lasting relationship, you gotta be willing to compromise, you gotta be willing to be understanding, and especially to conversate about the issues. One of my boys that I was just sitting with last night, he just got into a serious relationship. According to him, his first real serious relationship. And he was talking about that now that he's in a serious relationship, he has to have a better line of communication. And he told me, he's like, I'm not lying, man, sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's tough because I know what I want to say, it just won't come out. And he's been having a hard time with the communication portion, but he says, look, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy that I'm doing it because I really love this girl. So I'm really proud of him for doing that, and I think he just kind of points out to the point that we need to continue to develop these lines of communication, especially as men, because as men we have a hard time communicating our feelings, communicating what we're going through. Because some of it, your woman might completely understand, you might not be verbalizing it the right way. But again, just go right to the point that you were talking about a little bit ago.
Yes, I agree. I think that, unfortunately, and I keep bringing it up because I feel like it's honestly true, I feel like society has just also put so much pressure on men to be masculine, being the protector, not having any emotion, not being sensitive to what they're feeling or even wanting to understand what they feel. I think that I've been through some great relationships that just weren't a good fit, but I've also been through very interesting relationships where I kind of, in hindsight, you start to realize, you start to piece things together, and you realize that that person has a lot of insecurities that they have not been able to address, and a lot of times it's subconscious insecurities that we're not aware of. So I think that as a partner, as someone who wants to truly learn how your partner communicates, what their love language is, I think that's also a very important thing. Learning that and understanding that, rather than judging our partner or saying, hey, you're a fucking pussy because you don't take the reins, or it's give and take, and it's also growing with each other. Not every partnership is the same, not every person is the same. I've been in relationships where I've been with the cool guys, and then I've been in relationships with men who don't necessarily roll that way, and not one is better than the other, but I do notice that sometimes the priorities are different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it really just takes a strong person to be able to say, hey, not everything's going to be perfect. Sometimes things are going to go this way, sometimes they're going to go that way. But is that person willing to literally ride or die with you and go through those hoops? And are they willing to learn, okay, like what is triggering to that person? What is upsetting this person? What can I do? And that's the problem. I think that a lot of times we think, no, you have to change. You have to do this. Yeah. You have to do that. But how can you help that person if you love that person, right? It's kind of as if you have a child and they're going to school and they're learning to do math. If they come to you, and now I'm not a mathematician, but if my child came to me because I love them, I would put forth effort to maybe hit the books myself a little bit and teach them, so that way they can learn, they can feel confident. It's the same thing with the relationship. If you ask them, what is it that you need, and maybe they don't know what they need. Maybe they're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, you brought up two really good points that I want to touch up on. One is everybody wants a finished product. When you meet somebody, you and that person are barely getting to know each other, right? You guys are learning your likes, your dislikes, what you want for the future, what you would like to avoid. so on and so forth. So it's a process. No matter what you do, it's a process to get to the point where, you know, you guys are the finished product, so to speak. But nowadays, especially, and I see it on social media all the time, unfortunately, everybody wants the finished product. Everybody wants the person that's already got their shit together, that doesn't have any emotional baggage, that so on and so forth. Unfortunately, especially right now, because of how much hurt there's been out there in the dating pool, you're gonna have someone that's gonna have, you know, some hurt. You know, me personally, a long time ago, I used to say, I don't want any kids, I would never date anybody with kids, so on and so forth. But if I'm being realistic with myself, the dating market, I'm probably more than likely going to date someone who has a family before I come into it. And that's perfectly fine. So that's what I'm talking about. You have to give in a little bit. You're not going to find the finished product, so to speak, right from the get-go. The other thing that you discussed was the love language thing. I was just having a conversation with a good female friend of mine, and she was saying that she feels that her man should know her love language, and that's fine if you guys have been together for a while, but their relationship is still kind of new. And I'm like, look, you know, you gotta think, whatever girl he was with before he was with you, her love language is gonna be way different than yours. Don't get me wrong, you guys might have some similarities, but down to the specifics, you know, for example, you know, and I'm gonna put myself out there just a little bit. The girl that I was previously dating, she had a lot of emotional issues that unfortunately came from trauma that she dealt with as a child. And there'd be times where I wake up in the middle of the night, she was crying because, again, you know, she had a hard time with those traumatic moments. And one of the things that I'd never done that I did for the first time in my life was I sang to her a very specific song. And again, I'm by no fucking means a vocalist. I can't sing to save my fucking life. But I knew for this particular person that would help her calm down, ease, let some of that anxiety go. Which again, it's not something that I've done previously. It's not something that I think would apply to everybody, but everyone's love language is specific to them. What I may like as my love language is not going to be what she likes or what he likes, or so on and so forth. So it's very important that you take the time to learn the love language. You know, I made the mistake myself of I like to shower the people that I'm with gifts, and I know for some people that's bad. I know it's not great, but that's
his love language.
That's my love language. I like to show you, look, I'll give you the world, I'll give you everything, and I'll buy you this, I'll buy you that, because that's me showing, look, I put in an effort to make my money, and with that money, I wanna give you everything. But that's not everybody's love language, and unfortunately, I've had to learn that, you know, throughout time. Some people just want my time. Some people just want attention. Some people just want for you to be in the moment with them. So bringing up the love language thing, it's a great point, because again, every individual has a different love language, and you should take the time to learn your partner's love language.
Oh, definitely. And it doesn't happen overnight, because again, maybe they don't even know their love language.
Agreed.
I think that another thing I think that is extremely underrated and has a lot of negativity around it is counseling. I think counseling is such a great tool to have.
Absolutely.
Especially not just when you're going through bad stuff, guys. Sometimes counseling can actually be good even when things are going good. It allows you to understand your partner more. You know, again, these people went to school to figure out how people communicate. That's the whole reason why they went to school. So I think that a lot of times the stigma around counseling, therapy is bad. Oh, you're going to therapy, so there's something wrong with you. Sometimes I feel like if you don't go to therapy, maybe there is something wrong with you, you know, just because again, it's nice to have someone who doesn't know you, doesn't know your financial situation, does not know how many baby mamas you have or baby daddies you have. They don't know nothing about you other than the basics.
Yeah, other than what to tell them. Yeah.
Which is great, because it allows you hopefully to then be honest and be open. Now back to what you were saying, we were talking about it before we hopped on, is the love language. And like you said, you sang to your girl, you knew that was something that might soothe her. Maybe some people are like, that's freaking weird, or whatever the case may be, but it's so important that he recognized that that's something that helped her. And that's actually one of the points that I want to bring up to now, that everyone seems to think, again, is a negative thing. Submitting to your partner.
Yep.
I think that that's almost in line with what he's saying, right? So he's like, hey, I'm gonna buy you stuff. I will take care of you financially. Everything's gonna be handled. Now, of course, I'm sure he's not going around and saying, so what are you gonna do for me, right? I think that as a human being, we should be able to submit in the sense, okay, my man works for me, or my lady works for me. You know, I don't have to worry about anything other than maybe keeping the house clean and cooking some food. That's about it. I don't think that there really is nothing wrong with submitting to your partner. Even if you're a badass chick, you're independent, you pay the bills, you make the bacon, you cook it, all that. that's great. But I think that it's really important to be able to submit to someone in a healthy way. Doesn't have to be anything negative. Doesn't have to be like, I'm home, where's my food? You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like that. It's almost just kind of like a give and take thing.
I agree. You know, you bring that up, and I think it's a good topic to discuss as well, because submission has become such a dirty word in the sense of like people think, oh, if I'm submitting, I'm the weaker person, or it has nothing to do with that. Both people in the relationship, doesn't matter what role you take, whether you're the man making the money and the woman stays at home, or it's the woman making the money and the man stays at home. Doesn't matter what the dynamic is. To a certain degree, you should submit to your partner strictly because there's going to be things that your partner may lack in, or you may lack in, and you need their help to pick up in that particular arena. Not just that, but on top of that, you should be serving your partner's needs, whatever they are, emotionally, financially, spiritually, mentally, whatever it is. You should want to take care of your partner. You should want to, submit to what their needs are as far as what they need taken care of. And that, submit, serve, all that kind of stuff, those have all gone really dirty connotations
almost
to them.
Just like,
yeah, like
how
it's
could you say that?
like it's bad that you should have to submit to your partner. And again, for both sides, not just for women to men, but also for men to women. Again, to a certain degree, as a man, you should always listen to your woman. You should always take her perspective in. If there's something that she's feeling some type of way about, you should listen to her, hear her out. So it doesn't just go for just women. Women shouldn't be the only ones submitting. Men should also submit. Again, it depends on the arena. And that actually leads me to another thing that I want to discuss that you and me haven't discussed, but I'd like to get your opinion on. I think, especially in today's society, people have really gotten their roles confused, so to speak. And let me elaborate a little bit more on that. So me personally, I am a strong believer in masculine energy and feminine energy. Me personally, I generally skew a little bit, towards more the masculine, even though I've been trying to open up a little bit more. Meaning, generally speaking, when I look for a partner, I look for someone that's going to be in their feminine energy. Now, don't get me wrong, you could be a badass woman that's again, doctor, lawyer, whatever the fuck you want to be, and still be in your feminine energy. Just because you're holding a position of power doesn't mean that you got to give up that femininity. I think women, especially that live in their feminine energy, are beautiful. I feel like they can conquer anything else, just like the women that are super masculine. There's nothing wrong with being a strong feminine woman. And I think a lot of times now, I mean, fuck man, you can even say this for men. Unfortunately, I feel like the roles are being reversed a lot in the sense of, as a man, I do feel it is your job. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I do feel it is your job to protect, provide for your woman, to take care of her, take care of the kids and all that. That's my personal belief. And I feel like it's gotten really skewed, I guess, in the last 10-15 years or so as far as what that role is. I was just watching a debate, and I actually talked about it in the previous cast. This guy named XQC was saying, they gave him a situation that if you and your woman are asleep in your room, someone breaks into the house, they asked him who goes and checks it out, and he said, I don't know, none of us do. And my thought is like, yo bro, what the fuck do you mean you don't know? Like, as a man, like it should be your incentive. Like, you should want to protect your woman. Like, yeah, you might go down there and get fucking shot, but at least you fucking tried. So I think it's stupid that he came up with the answer. Go watch the debate. It's a really stupid thing. It got really popular for a bit there. But regardless, that's my personal belief. So let me get your view on that, the feminine energy and the masculine energy.
From what I know or understand about masculine and feminine energy, I think, well, what do I think about it?
How do you feel about it? Do you feel like, as a woman, you have a certain, I guess, a role? Not to say that you have to be a homemaker.
Sure.
But do you feel like, as a woman, you should stay in your feminine energy? Meaning, despite what your job is, whether you're making $1 million, do you still feel that you should stay feminine? Do you still feel that you should arrive for that sensuality, that caretakingness, that everything that encompasses that feminine energy?
Sure. I think that as I've gotten older, I just turned 30. I just turned 30, so I think that as I've gotten older, I have actually embodied more my femininity as I've gotten older, whereas in my younger years I was definitely more into my masculine. He's known me for a very long time, so I think he can agree with that. And I didn't really understand. I didn't understand at the moment, like, why I was in my masculine energy all the time. Now that I've gone to therapy, because I do go to therapy, I've learned that it's because of past traumas in my life that kind of made me just constantly be aggressive and defensive and kind of just like want to take over things but not really want to take over things. take care of, but not really want to take care of or be taken care of. So I think that when you're getting to a point in your life where you find your partner, you start to create your own life, your own family, then you kind of realize kind of what your role is, whether that's a masculine role or whether that's a feminine role. I would say right now I've embodied more my feminine role. I have gone to a place where I want to have children, I want to have a family. I love that my partner now is the head of the household, and I might get a lot of backslash for that, but I actually really enjoy that because those are things that I don't have to worry about. Whatever his role is in the relationship, that's something I don't have to deal with. I like to deal with making him his food and keeping the house clean, and once I have children, just kind of embody that. And I think that it's beautiful to have both. I think as women, I can't speak for men, but as women, we're always being told to stay in your femininity, but we should embrace both of them. Just because you're in your femininity doesn't mean you can't be masculine. Doesn't mean you can't have both. I think that, of course, again, back to give and take, you have to find someone who's willing to embody both of those things of the woman. And same thing for the man. I think there's some men that live more in their femininity rather than their masculinity. And you have to just embody that. You have to almost appreciate that, because not a lot of, at least from what I know, not a lot of men live in their femininity, and some live only in their masculinity. So I think either way, I think it's embrace it, love it about yourself. If you don't know what those things mean, I would encourage you to look them up. But yes, I think it's just embody it, love it.
I agree. All right, so let's touch on a little bit something that you and I both have experience in. Let's talk about marriage a little bit. Let's talk about what we've both.
My favorite topic.
We've both been through. I'll let you take the reins since you have a little bit more experience in this one than me. But go ahead and talk about. Do you want to put out there how many you've had?
So no, actually, I don't mind because I'm not embarrassed about it. I used to be. I think that I cared a lot about what people think about me and the things that I've been through. But again, as you get older, I think you kind of have like a I don't give a fuck kind of mentality. Like, those people don't pay my bills. I don't gotta lay with them at the end of the night. I don't gotta see them every day. So I really don't give two F's.
All right, so this is what we'll do. We'll go to your first one. We'll go to my first one, and then I'll shoot back to you.
Okay.
Right, so
that gives the ending right there.
All right,
so I've been married twice. My first marriage was, honestly, it was more of a transaction, if you will.
Rebound.
It's more of a transaction. And it was, it was a very quick one. It was just married, done.
How long were you married in your first one?
I would say like 6 months, maybe a little less than 6 months. It happened very quickly. But again, I think that going into that, there was an understanding there, and it was just kind of like, hey, we don't really love each other and we don't really care, and I don't recommend that. But it was for more transactional reasons, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. So for my first one actually lasted for a long time, and I'll say this: the reason that it ended, I have my certain feelings about it, but I can honestly say, especially now, now that I've gotten over in retrospect, 99% of it was my fault. What I mean by that is, I got married very young. I got married when I was 18. At 18, I didn't know who the fuck I was, meaning I knew who I was as a person, but I didn't really explore my mind to the depths that I've explored it now. It was heartbreaking when the divorce happened, but in retrospect, I think we both knew at that moment in time that it was over. I just think she had more balls than me to actually pull the trigger and get the divorce initiated and whatnot. I hold no ill will towards her. It's one of those scenarios where, again, I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but again, I was a fucking idiot. Who's not an idiot at 18 years old? Who's not an idiot at 19 years old, 20, so on and so forth. I made a lot of mistakes. I do feel like I learned a lot from it when I moved on from that relationship. There's a lot of things that I knew that I was doing wrong that I didn't want to take into my next relationship. So I made sure to try and learn as much of it as much as I could from that. The fuck ups that I had in my first marriage. John is probably gonna be my last one, but it was definitely interesting. Again, I hold no ill will towards her. 99% of the mistakes were mine, and it is what it is.
So what do you think, looking back, and I'm sure there's lots of things, but looking back, what do you think has dramatically changed for you? And what did you learn about yourself in that relationship?
That at 18 I was extremely fucking selfish. I didn't see it at the time. You know, you get told these things, and especially as a man, you don't think you're doing as much damage as you're doing. You know, to me, if, for example, I'll give you, if a woman tells you, you know, someone that you've been dating for a while, oh, you know, just come lay with me, come lay with me. To you, it might be like, okay, well, you know, this isn't gonna accomplish anything. We're just gonna lay there for a little bit, which is, I know, fucked up. And that's, but as an 18-year-old, that's what I would think a lot of times. I'm like, okay, like, we're just gonna lay there. This is. There's nothing here. We're just laying here. But in retrospect, I mean, she could have been going through some shit. She could have just needed, you know, a quick little boost at that moment in time, you know, emotionally. She could have been going through something drastic. I mean, there's a number of reasons that you know, things like that to me back in the day didn't mean anything. Whereas now I try to take the time to make sure that I do those things with my partner, simply because, you know, you never know what that person is going through. Again, not, you know, just kind of discussing what we were talking about earlier. Not everything is vocalized, unfortunately. Sometimes even when you have an intimate partner and you've been with them for a while, it's still hard to talk about certain things just because it might be a sore point for you. It might be some trauma. It's difficult, you know, it's difficult to open up. So one of the things that I learned that I really didn't want to take moving forward is to take that for granted, so to speak. I don't want to keep making any partner that I'm with, any woman that I decide to date, like they can't be heard, like they can't express themselves, because I did. I was very dismissive. Not only was I dismissive, but, you know, because I'm always focusing on the bigger picture, you know, the mortgage, the cars, the future, you know, the blah blah, the business, all that kind of stuff. To me, all this stuff was always put on the back burner, and not even just for her, but for myself. So being more emotionally aware was another thing that I guess I could say that I learned is, you know, not everything is about the future. Like my dad always used to tell me, you know, son, what good is it if you're making all this money if you don't actually enjoy any of it, if you don't take any trips, if you don't spend any of it, if you don't have fun? Because I was just stacking the money away. I was trying to hit that milli. So it's one of those scenarios where I've learned to be more aware of what my partner's going through, more emotionally intelligent, I guess you can say.
Available.
More emotionally available, yeah. There's different things like that. There's a lot of shit. Because again, 99% of the issues were my fault. In that relationship that I had going on in that moment in time, I made a lot of fucking mistakes. And you know, and again, maybe it's just part of growing up, but you can acknowledge it. Like back then, I'm like, no, she's tripping. It's her fault. You know. How could she ruin this, blah, 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 but after you take some time and you kind of remove yourself from the situation and you look back on it, you see that you made a lot of mistakes.
You would hope,
yeah,
right?
Theoretically, yeah, you would hope.
You would hope that people would take a step back and say, okay, what did I screw up on?
Yeah, what did I fuck up, yeah.
And I think that a lot of times too, we don't take accountability when we're in relationships, because I think in the moment you're just so emotionally invested and you're just like, oh, you know, pulling your hair out, trying to figure things out. But that's what I think he's trying to get at, is a lot of times if you take that step back, you give yourself time to heal, if that's what's meant for you, and also figure out like, okay, well, what could I have done differently? That's truly all about growth. It's growth, it's maturity. I think that when we can take accountability, which people hate that, also another like kind of word, because people, we don't know how to take accountability. Everyone wants to be right, no one wants to be wrong. You know, like I'm sure you hear it all the time, like people will get divorced and you know, it's just like, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, or well, you said this, so I want this, or you know, so it's an emotional roller coaster. It really is.
I agree. I 100% agree. Like you said, accountability has really become a dirty word. I actually deal in family law, literally what I do every day. So yeah, I see it all the time. You know, unfortunately, you see these relationships that at some point were good. I'm sure that they grew on good intentions, and eventually, you know, it became what it became. You know, when I got divorced, my attorney, he told me, you know, I like what I do because I get to help certain people. He's like, but I don't, because nobody comes into a marriage thinking they're going to get a divorce, which is 100% true. Everybody comes into it with good intentions. What about your second one?
Well, I think my second one, well, by my second marriage, I would say that I had grown a lot. I had learned a lot about myself. In previous relationships, subconsciously, I was very depressed. I was a very depressed person. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of frustration. I just had a lot of cooped up, just like rage in me. due to family issues and in my childhood and things of that nature. And I think that caused a lot of my relationships to kind of go awry and not obviously not work out. So my second marriage, going into it, I felt like Rocky. I was like, I'm ready for this. Like, I'm ready for any blows you got for me. Like, let's do this. Like, I have my gloves on. I'm ready for it. And let's just say it ended like in the real Rocky movie where Apollo Creed just
knocked you the fuck out.
Beat me the fuck up. In the end, right? So, now this person that I was married to, let's just name him Bob. Bob and I had known each other for a long time. We actually had worked together. And I always, unfortunately, and now again in hindsight, I'm like, okay, well, you probably shouldn't have gotten involved had you already kind of knew about this person's past. So when I had met this person, he did have a girlfriend. He had a girlfriend for about 5 years. And after they broke up, as I was working there, I just heard a lot of girls tell me that this person, this Bob person, was somewhat of a player, and he liked to get around, and he wasn't shy in that department. And on top of that, he was my manager at the time, so I really obviously didn't go for that. I mean, I kind of didn't want to, piss in my Cheerios. So I didn't even look in his direction. Fast forward, he reached out to me on Facebook. We became friends. We started talking. And I will tell you this again now in hindsight, there was tons of just love bombing right off the bat. You have such gorgeous hair. You look so beautiful. You look so grown up. Just all these different things. And I'm not gonna lie, this person was a lot older than me. 12 years older than me. So at the moment, I thought, okay, in my mind, I'm like, I know this person's bad news, but that was like almost 10 years ago. He could have changed. Yeah. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
And everything was great for the first few months. Within I'd say 4 months into the relationship, things started to I started to notice things. I started to pay attention more. I started to just notice some odd things that were happening. That I never paid attention to before, such as, he'd be gone for hours and come home and then take a shower. Okay, ladies, I'm gonna tell you right now, if y'all man gone for 3 hours and he comes home and he doesn't kiss you and he goes straight to the shower, girl, you need to watch it because that's probably not a good sign. Now, of course, if he's a construction worker and he smells like swamp ass, okay, I get that, right? But anyways, just little things like that. He had also mentioned to me, I don't know how to word this, I'm just going to word it. He had mentioned to me his previous girlfriend to me was very controlling. And I said, well, how so? And again, this is when your brain starts to put things together. He said that she was very jealous. Okay, well, how was she jealous? Because if a guy tells you that his ex-girlfriend was a jealous person, there has to be a reason why she was jealous. Don't let him fool you. So, according to him, he said that she had asked him one night when he came home late if she could smell his undercarriage. Okay? And I'm like, whoa, okay. I was not expecting that. But that was a red flag. Obviously, that was a red flag. So anyways, fast forward, these little things started to click. They started to happen. And he ended up having an affair. It was more of an emotional affair. Now, I've talked to him, we've been friends for so long. According to him, he thinks it was more than just a emotional affair. Yeah. It could have been sexual as well. I don't know, I don't have proof of that. And when I confronted him with the girl, mind you, I confronted him with the girl he was having an affair with, denied. No, I didn't do that. No, she's crazy. He made himself to look like he was the victim. And so we ended up separating. And, I grew up in a household where marriage is, it's important. It's important, and I'm Christian, so when you get married, not only are you making commitment between you and that person, but you're making commitment through God. So for me, although all these crazy things were happening, I felt like, okay, again, I still have to give him the benefit of the doubt. So we had separated, and I said, okay, he wanted to get back with me, and I said there was a few things that needed to happen first in order for us to get back together. Our therapist did recommend for us to live separately while this was happening, to make sure that this person was going to submit and commit and do the work. Well, the number one rule, because he had an alcohol and drug problem, was you cannot go out to the bar. You cannot. He broke that rule. Within less than 24 hours, he was in the bar. And so that's what I'm saying with all these things in regards to relationships. I think that people don't really have relationship problems. The problems are always brought into the relationship, because again, and people could use this argument, well, we got married very quickly. Okay, so people could use the argument, well, you got married quickly. Guys, there have been people that have gotten married way back when, within a week, and they've been married for 50 years.
Yep.
So I don't think it has anything to do with the timeline. I truly think that it has to do with your morals, your values, whether or not you submit to that person. So people could use that argument against me, and people do. People really do. My family, my friends will say, well, you got married too fast. It has nothing to do with that. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But again, I've known people that got married within a week's time, and they've been married for 50 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I do lean more on the side of you should, definitely vet somebody before you get married to them. I like to deeply know a person before I know, okay, am I going to be moving forward with this person in the long term? Like right now, for example, me personally, I am looking for a long-term relationship. So that whoever I'm with, they have to understand that there is certain expectations that I have, just like I'm sure that they're going to have certain expectations for me. So to me, yes, I do generally like to date someone a little bit long before I'm willing to actually sit down and say, okay, what do you think about marriage, or what do you think about kids, or so on and so forth. But I agree. I know, in fact, I have a couple of good friends on Facebook that I know got married literally within like 2 or 3 months of knowing each other, and they're still married. They've been married longer than my marriage lasted. So who the fuck am I to judge the situation? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it depends obviously on the person. I think it depends on the people involved. Again, your view on it is a little different than mine, but that's perfectly okay. Some people believe that you can get married a little bit quicker. Some people feel like it should be a little bit slower of a process. It just depends on your particular attitude towards it. But yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it kind of sucks. It seems like he wasn't willing to do everything just from the get-go.
No, he wasn't, and that's like our whole point of this conversation, is that I think that I was willing to do whatever it took, whether that was counseling, whether that was talking to my parents, whether that was talking to his mother, whatever it was, I was willing to do those things even after he cheated on me, even after he had the affair. I said, okay, like, let's live separately, let's just cool off, let's give it time, let's rebuild where we kind of left off and rebuild that spark, because I do truly believe you can rebuild that spark. But again, it has to just be like,
There has to be give and take on both sides.
It has to be like a team effort, guys.
Absolutely.
Like, if it's not a team effort, it's never going to work. And I always like that one saying, a relationship is never 50-50. It's not. It has to be 100 and 100
yeah.
always. If it's not, then obviously someone's slacking.
I agree. It's definitely difficult, especially again, I feel like today's climate has just made it that much worse because again, like you said, people don't really have problems, especially starting out in their relationships, is that they bring in their previous traumas into the relationship, and that causes problems. So yeah, it's definitely a point that I feel like everybody should take in. I do think that unfortunately we often come into a new relationship with our walls built up, just because nobody wants to experience that hurt. Nobody wants to deal with the pain, the trauma, the hurt that they've been through before, especially because for a lot of us, we invested a lot into our partners, and whether they disappointed them or we disappointed them. It's one of those scenarios that you don't want to relive that trauma. You don't want to relive that hurt, that pain, and all that. So I understand why a lot of people go into a relationship with that wall up. But if you really want to get to know someone, you can't get to know someone from a distance. Everyone always says, gotta keep everybody at a distance if you don't want to get hurt. How are you really supposed to know somebody? If you're really trying to get to know this person, you're really trying to be with them, especially in a long-term relationship, you really want a future with this individual, you can't keep them at arm's length and expect to have that true bond.
Right.
That unfortunately, evades too many people. Anything else you want to discuss on the topic?
No, but I will say what I did learn from that was, again, I can't change anyone. We can't change anyone. We can't set unrealistic expectations of people either. Because I will admit I have a really bad habit of setting expectations for people, which in retrospect you really shouldn't be setting those expectations. You should really just allow that person to bring what they have to the table. Now again, that doesn't mean settle for less or whatever you think that negativity part of that is. But I do think that you should be open and honest. One more thing I wanted to mention, I do think that in relationships, it's important to give that person, your partner, the space to be honest. And what I mean by that is, when my husband told me that, when I confronted my husband about the affair and I had asked him in front of the woman he was having the affair with, I didn't scream, I didn't yell, I didn't blow up. I gave him the opportunity to be honest with me. Now, of course, no one likes to hear the honest truth. It hurts, it sucks, especially if it's about you. But if you don't give people whoever it is, whether that's your family, your friends, your partner, doesn't matter. You have to allow people that space to truly be honest and make a commitment to yourself to not fly off the handle, and just really understand what is the root of that issue, what is the root of what is causing this wedge, or what's causing the cheating, or what's causing the lying. Because if you allow your partner that space, then you could probably, hopefully, easily fix it, and make better decisions moving forward.
I agree. And that's one thing that, I feel like too many people forget about is that, we always come into these situations, especially like obviously infidelity, in a really charged manner, where the emotions are running high. You might be angry, you might be sad, you might be depressed, you might be whatever. And if you come at someone and you attack them, you come accusatory, even if they did the thing that... And
it's true.
Yeah, even if you got to give them a chance to explain themselves. And don't get me wrong, I'm not in any way, shape, or form, advocating for infidelity.
Not at all.
Take the infidelity out of it for a second. Any other scenario, whether they did something you didn't like, or they spoke to somebody, whatever it may be, you got to give them a chance to come into it and actually explain themselves in a non-attack form. Because if you come at them in that way, yeah, of course they're gonna get defensive. They're gonna put up that wall. They're gonna start talking. You're not gonna get anywhere. You're not gonna develop what you want to develop out of the situation. So yeah, 100% agree. Damn good point. Always give your partner a safe arena to be able to discuss whatever it is the issue might be between both of you guys.
Definitely.
Okay, perfect. I think we touched on a lot. I think it was a great conversation. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot more like it. It's one of those scenarios where both parties are gonna be very charged up in this thing. But I look forward to the conversations. Hopefully, we can have you back a number of times. In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, hate, whatever, love it. I don't care. Do it all. Thank you so much for joining us, Miscellaneous Minds. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.